Greetings and welcome to Bridging the Gap. I'm Ian Hansen. This is intuitive medium and spiritual advisor Brenda Burgett. Brenda, hello.
Hello.
Couple of weeks off for us. She had a bad one a few weeks ago. I had a bad one last week. Now we are back. Actually, they were fine weeks. We were just a little bit busy, so I hope you didn't miss us too much. These are supposed to air weekly, but sometimes may take a week or two off. It's the holidays coming up, so we got an early start on it. Brenda, on this installment of the program, we are going to be discussing health and finances, both. Is that what we decided on here for today? Or?
I think it might work together.
Okay. One can play into the other, probably more so how the finances are going towards the health, but maybe not. We'll see what you have to say about that.
We'll see what they have to say.
Absolutely, and we'll also see what they have to say about a few questions that we have in line for you. One to start off with and one to close. All right, and again, you can get these questions to Brenda Burgett for interpretations of what may be going on, and again, you get your own answers. How that works, you watch the show, and you find out about that. So please, again, get emails to Brenda Burgett. You can do so through the website, which is bridgingthegaptv.com. You can also go to bridgingthegapwithbrenda.com. Same website, two different ways to get there. If you're watching us right now, by the way, on YouTube, that's Bridging the Gap on TV. Hello to Accra, Ghana, which is the capital, by the way. I've been boning up on those just for...
We really should test him.
oh, test me. I love it.
Oh, no.
Go ahead. Shuffy has one. I'm sure he does. Go ahead. Before question number one.
It's Lithuania country.
In
Lithuania?
Yeah, Lithuania.
West Africa?
It's Vasilius is the capital of Lithuania.
I knew that.
Someone Google that.
I knew that.
Go ahead, Google it. It's right. Riga would be the capital of Latvia, which is above, and then Tallinn is Estonia, which is above that. If you want to move to the other Eastern Bloc countries, you shoot me an email, and I'll amaze you with things you could look up online, but I don't have to. So, Brenda, you ready for this question?
Wait, question.
It's World Capitals Day here on Bridging the Gap. This question comes in from the southwestern USA, and we thank whoever wrote it to us, and it says, I have a health issue at this time, and it is getting worse, it seems. What do you see for me? Pretty straightforward.
What do I see for... This is a female. This is someone I have talked with before.
It is, okay.
And the health issue is more in her mind than it actually is physical. But that doesn't mean it isn't real, because it's very real. There's some things that she believes in strongly, and she's had to... She's questioning them right now. She's questioning, am I doing the right thing? Why is my life a mess? And when that happens, when you start questioning the very essence of who you are, you get sick a lot of times. Do you hear our frog?
I hear our frog. I was just about to say, there is a frog. You have several of them, actually.
I hope they didn't get in the house. I hope he's not in our room.
I don't think so. This is a rather tight... Actually, this is a massive studio that was built just for our purposes here on Bridging the Gap, but I don't think so. I think he's probably just on the other side of this wall, which looks out over a wonderful garden, hedge maze. We're getting ready to put the corn out for this time of the year since Halloween's around the corner.
And
Stuff.
And food for the frogs.
Food for the frogs, exactly. Princely parts.
Yeah.
Chop, chop, chop.
I'm
So,
not kissing the frog, but you know what? You might try it.
I might try it.
Let's have Chris kiss the frog.
I'll kiss myself and see if I turn into anything amphibious at all. That might be a decent installment for one of our shows that's on the way in the future. All right, Brenda, so as far as this person's health is concerned, you're saying that this, much like what we'll talk about today, in part at least, is something that's in her mind, so she's having some troubles and she's questioning, for lack of a better term, could we say her faith, perhaps, or the core of what she is, who she is?
The essence of who she is.
The essence of who she is.
Who she really is. She's a very remarkable person. I mean, she's just a wonderful person. Very loving, very giving, very helpful, which is all part of the problem in the first place.
Yeah, in this world it seems to be sometimes.
Well, you know, you take care of yourself first, and then there's so much more for other people when you're really where you need to be. The health thing with her, there are some minor things, and I'm sorry about this, but they deal with aging. And the females that we are, so this will be better.
Okay, so this is something you see her physically getting over, but the
absolutely.
recovery would definitely be expedited if she might be able to get her essence back on track.
Exactly. Just stop a little bit and instead of wondering what you've done wrong or why this isn't working, know that you're right. Know that you're 100% right with everything you do, and there is no right, there is no wrong. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. Breathe and quit trying to save the world.
Okay, fair enough. That's sounds like a lot, but they seem like really simple things actually for this person to go ahead and...
Very, very difficult things for her, actually.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
But that's the answers that come through.
All right, is there a time frame on recovery here that you also are seeing, Brenda, for her, or is that something we even want to get into?
No, I don't want to do the time thing.
Okay.
With her especially.
All right.
Because
fair enough.
I bet actually she's asked me that several times.
Ah, okay.
And I don't want my ideas to become a part of what she thinks and doesn't think.
Okay.
And that's all it would be.
Fair enough. But you don't see any major health concerns with her at this time?
No, I don't.
Okay, good. Leads me to a question that I guess could start us off down the road of physical health and maybe the well-being that is produced by the essence that you have referred to already, Brenda, and that is that when you see a client or when you talk with someone that you are able to get a spiritual connection for, and I imagine that's very few people that are blocked from that, but if you're really efforting on their behalf to try and get them an answer, and you see something that is a major physical ailment, if you see cancer, for example, if you detect something that could literally kill them physically, what's the psychic ethical response that you have? Do you actually get it from the source that's telling you this, or is this a decision Brenda makes then with her own cognitive thought?
I don't give anyone any information that might be life-threatening to them unless they have asked me. And I believe and I know for a fact that I could be around you and see a cancer, and if I tell you about this cancer and you haven't asked, then this could become a full-blown, life-threatening, whatever. If I see a cancer and you don't know it's there, it can very well heal itself and be gone. It's not my job.
There's the mind again,
Not
right?
my job.
Okay.
Right. I do walk by people occasionally that I will ask on a psychic level. Bring them back to me and have them ask me. Bring them into my circle if you want them to know, if you want them to be told. And they either do or they don't. So that's another thing about not having any direct, not really, I have no connection to the outcome on this. So it's not something like we were talking about the lady on TV who does the track him down and tell him what's going on thing.
Oh, Long Island medium.
And she's amazing.
Long Island.
She's amazing. Love her. I just think she's amazing. But I can't do that. I cannot. I'm told not to get in somebody else's circle unless they invite me in.
That seems to be maybe the traditional, if you will, way of doing things. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, and I know people are going to go, who are out there, they're a little religious watching this, but if you are, well, I mean, you must be up late and searching for a lot of things that you'll want to take into. We need to burn these people. So, I think about Jesus, actually, Brenda, and the fact that Jesus didn't run around going, you're healed, you're healed, you're healed. I mean, there was no Super Saver Day. You needed to ask to be healed. It was very important that you sought out the healing.
I've never really thought about that, but that's what I remember from the Bible.
Yeah, what do we know from 2,000 years ago that's absolutely true? That is one thing that has been studied on both, again, a religious level, ideological level, and also from a scholarly level, and that's one thing that's known, is that there's no walking into the colony and healing all the lepers. You have to come forward and ask. And I guess here, although it's not necessarily always going to involve healing, although it could through Brenda's gifts and abilities.
Healing on a spiritual level is probably the first thing, and then the rest of it will fall into place normally. Interesting thing that happened to me, I was doing the classes and I was so consumed with all of this. I guess I still am. And I was in a group of psychics in a room, and it was like the light bulbs were popping out of the ceiling, you know, and there was some very new people in there. I was new myself, but I'm a little more reserved and quiet than some of them, and they were running around saying, do you know your husband's sleeping with your sister? Oh my gosh, you have somebody here, let me heal it. And it was so invasive to me.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that played a big part. And the fact that Jesus and I had something in common. Hey, you can't knock that, can ya?
Why am I wanting to transfix that with like a line from Ghostbusters near the end where the entire world is coming to a cataclysmic conclusion? So I'm thinking of the manager saying, the walls in the Holiday Inn Express were bleeding. So in the conference room that all these psychics were in. So I botched the line.
That was probably 10 years ago when it first happened.
10 years ago.
And there was times when I allowed this gift to really come in to my life that I would see something and I think, whoa, I should tell these people what's going on. That doesn't work any more than maybe telling somebody that their hair is ugly, or
which would be an opinion, by the way, too.
Opinion, so. Or like friends like to tell me, you need to go shopping.
Oh.
Or you need to go get your hair done.
Which you did.
Which I did.
And it looks wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we would never march up to Brenda now and say she has bad hair now that she finally got it fixed. So.
Yeah, finally, you know, get the roots done and I'll be out in public again before you know it.
It took a while, you know, roots. Oh, that was a killer when I was a kid. Boring, you know. I liked it when I was an adult, but wow, having to watch that as a kid was just awful. So, I'm not referring, by the way, to this page for anything except your viewer and listener questions that you've sent in. This show is completely unscripted, and I'm rather proud of that, actually, and I think Brenda should be too, because it's pretty much what comes through both of us, I suppose, Brenda, is bridging the gap, and that's part of the gap that we bridge each and every go around here. So, as far as what we've touched on today so far, the connection that you make with people and some of the ethics behind that, we've talked about that before, and I imagine it'll come up again. But what about this healing business, Brenda? Because I know I'll mention a show that I just recently saw, and I thought of you, and I was thinking about calling you, but I don't think you were in front of the TV at the time, so maybe you'll see it another time. It was called Psychic Kids, and it was kind of interesting because I thought about your experiences as a child, but we can talk about that on another program. Healing, though, is something I'm seeing more and more of these days, it seems like. It's starting to get into the mainstream mindset a little bit more, and I like that. So, what's causing this shift?
It's time. It's time. The earth is ready, we're ready, and people who are light workers, I'm a light worker, you're a light worker, Jason is a light worker in his own way. We're ready for this.
Except he's union light worker. We're actually independent.
Worker,
so.
Yes. With bennies.
With bennies. I love it when she talks like that. So.
I have.
Only when cute. Only when cute.
What's he trying to do?
Yeah, he had thummy up there, so we, you know. That's my dynamite thumb.
So we have to pay him for that. Is that right? Yes.
Oh no,
we're
he's
not
a union
gonna
thumb,
pay.
so
Oh,
we'll get him in trouble. So he wasn't called in today.
Yeah.
He just broke Illinois.
I recently spoke with a nurse, and who's very into this. And
A nurse?
I was delighted to talk to her.
That is nice.
She has this, and then there is one at their local hospital who took the same reconnection class I took. And I'd love to meet her someday. I had my family smuggling me in, literally smuggling me in. I have a cousin's daughter, which would make her, what, a cousin, daughter, niece-in-law, something, who had digestive problems, and they would call me, and somebody would watch the door, and I would go in and do the energy work on this person, and she would go home the next morning. Well, the one time they couldn't call me, they did emergency unnecessary surgery, and I'm not saying I had anything to do with any of the whatever. But it is very, very, very powerful, and it's available, and it's there, and why shouldn't we use it?
Well,
Combine it with the physical, or there's some wonderful physicians and very caring nurses especially, I've noticed. this is a time, it's a wonderful time to be alive, and it's a wonderful time to be doing what we're doing right now. I'm very excited about this.
Yes, Brenda, but there's some work to be done.
Yes,
Hence the
there
term
is.
worker behind that light. And one of them would be the fact that I would guess if the HMOs can figure out a way to charge for all this healing business, they're in. But otherwise, they don't want you running around healing a bunch of people. That's bad for business, see? And I think that's maybe where I tick a little bit more, not that that doesn't come up for you, but as someone who sees these kind of injustices, and they're really large, paramount ones. And I know that they challenge some of the things that we've lived under as far as capitalism. But I just threatened capitalism in a voice, you know. They're going to come get me now. They're going to drag me out. So it's an election year, though, so they'll wait to chain me up, and they may open Guantanamo Bay again, which might be nice, because we could paint the walls in there the same color you've done in here, which is beautiful. Anyway, Brenda, I think that challenges a larger scope, which is, what if we could pretty well heal ourselves? What if it was common? I mean, that would essentially take down the medical industry, but what would the problem with that be?
Okay, so this is not going to make for good material for this show, and it's not going to make really carry this discussion on any further, because I don't do the what if conspiracy things, and I'll tell you why. I can't deal with it.
Well, none of us can in a larger sense.
I really can't. I've been told, I can see you being able to make this a campaign. And
Well, not come down. Wait a minute.
But I am very carefully told, don't go in to that side of it. Use the gift, straight, simple, color book healing, color book psychic energy. Don't go to the conspiracy thing. I make a lot of very nice people angry with me because it's, well, you know, you really should, no.
I don't know that it's a conspiracy so much as it is just...
It's a conspiracy sometimes.
I think it's just... Well, okay, Brenda, what about... And I know we're not going here, but we are, so... What about a couple thousand years ago? And there was aspirin, because the bark of the willow tree has been used for centuries and thousands of years as a pain
and
reliever.
Bayer was around.
Bayer. Yeah, black beige, you got your browns,
Yeah,
your
beige,
blues up in the
blues.
Russian wilderness. Oh yeah, there's all kinds of beige.
Yep.
So it was all herbal healing, and certainly we know of some texts and some writings where there was a lot of spiritual healing, I guess you could say, energy healing that was around. But we did not have modern medicine. Obviously they weren't modern yet. So they used other things. How they worked out, I guess we're not really, they didn't keep a logbook of these types of things. But then suddenly things evolved to the point where they are today, Brenda. So it seems to me there's kind of an expanding and a contracting that goes on with humanity and with our mindset. And rather than opening up an entirely new vault when we talk about what we're talking about today, what we often talk about here on Bridging the Gap, we're sort of taking more of a glimmer into the window that's already open for us from the past and saying, hey, I get that now, or we're remembering that now.
Exactly.
Let's use that again.
Exactly. And if I have pneumonia, I'm going to welcome an antibiotic.
Well, sure.
I'm
going to welcome morphine any old day of the week. You come over and knock, hang up the bag, honey, and give me some chips to go with it, too. So I love chips and
bring
morphine.
me coloring books and Jell-O. There were people who died that didn't have to die, maybe. That were being treated with herbs and whatever, and medicine and all of this. With modern medicine, which is modern meaning the beginning of the white jacket thing, came some really good things. Saved babies' lives. It saved whatever. Things were evolving, and now maybe we're at a place where let's combine. Let's combine the spiritual, and let's combine with the holistic, and let's be a whole person. Let's treat body, soul, and mind. Let's, this will get me in trouble, but why in the world are we struggling to keep people alive that are maybe ready to go.
Oh, yeah, well, I was about to go there to say that that's the even larger bubble that's over this sub-bubble that we've kind of broached, which is, you know, what are we doing in the first place? We're prolonging life, and there's nothing wrong with that, maybe in most cases, but I think you have to shatter the stigma of dying and what that means
Exactly.
in order to really crack through all of this, so.
And we've talked so much about dying and changing forms. And I hope I'm not that one that's crying like and screaming like a little girl saying I'm not going when it happens. I hope that I'm ready to do what I tell everybody else is so easy to do.
Although I
don't
agreed with
know.
most of what he said in his own life, I'm not sure that I totally take this one to heart, but it was funny anyway, because George Carlin always said, that's the secret of life, not dying. And he had a deal about when, you know, if I'm ever like that, just pull my plug, pull the plug. And he said an expletive, which he was well known for, and then followed it with, leave my plug alone. So I can see feeling that way, and we have a way to plug you in now and leave you there if you want. We also, I think, Brenda, Oregon is one state, Washington State, another state. There's a few states where assisted suicide is acceptable under certain parameters and circumstances. It has to be signed off on by a number of different medical factions in order to make it a legal choice, but it is at least something maybe that we're broaching to say that death isn't such a bad thing, and I don't think that's going to be said all at once. We're not going to get very Viking about this overnight.
No.
It's going to happen gradually.
And I'm not sure exactly how I feel about that.
I'm not either, because I haven't been in that
Yeah,
situation
I
myself, and
haven't
I've never had a loved one there either.
But I know that I have been at several passings, and they are the saddest thing in the world and the most beautiful. You know, it's like it's every bit as beautiful as a birth in its own way. And most of the people that I've been around have been in horrible pain, and their bodies, it's time to give it up. They don't want to be here anymore. So it's that watching them struggle and struggle for that last breath, and then finally it oozes out of them and is gone, and then that's when we cry.
Yeah, it's too bad it can't be more of a celebration, and I think, with all fairness to funeral home directors and people as such, because I've been to some doozies before, they do the best they can to celebrate a person's life, but we really do sort of just say, that's it, we've chopped it off. And I definitely don't want to get into the organized religious portion of things, but I've been to funerals before where the same pastor that was hellfire and brimstone last weekend and saying that you're all going to go, just buried somebody, or helped to at least, who was not a parishioner and was not a religious person, and suddenly he's up there. So those are bigger questions asked too. Why are we creating those dichotomies for ourselves, Brenda? Because that seems to be what we're doing. And I don't want to point the finger at anybody. I'm just saying that the more we do that, the more we convolute our own paths in a lot of different ways.
I'm going to point my finger for a minute.
Uh-oh.
I get to do this.
Finally got her to do this.
I do this often, but I come from a very fundamentalist background, and I have some wonderful friends who still believe that way, and I would never want them to change. My family is mainly there. But when I go to a funeral and it's an altar call, I don't know if you know what I mean by an altar call. It's the person died, and they were holy, good, and pure, and now you're going to hell if you don't do the same thing. I resent that. I used to get up and walk out.
Yeah, that would be upsetting for me, I think.
I don't do those things. I've got my mother, my dear mother, has probably the best attitude about dying. We buried 2 of her cats recently.
Yeah.
I had 5, and these cats were, oh my gosh, so ready to go. And she doesn't really believe in having them put down, but the last one, last 5 minutes of life, had help. But we were burying this cat and trying to dig a hole in this really hard dirt, and she's looking around and kind of looking what's going on. She said, once they're dead, I really don't have much to do with them.
No?
Okay.
Well, if that works for her. I think it probably works better than stuffing it and hanging on to it forever and never, I guess, letting it go from the physical sense.
I guess so. I still feel my Morgan dog jump on my bed, and I cry a few tears over the rest, Casey and the rest of them, but not my mom. Once they're gone, they're out of here.
I was always envious of the universe of Star Wars, quite frankly, because really there's not much difference between it in our own realm. But I was thinking about how when, you know, Obi-Wan passed and Yoda passed, and
I need to see that movie.
well,
It's been such a long
Luke
time.
was able to wander around and just talk with Ben, like, "Hey Ben, how you doing?" And he was this ghostly sort of form, but he still looked like he did, and he looked, imagine, a lot like the spirits that you see, Brenda, and can communicate with. So, in your world, that is very possible in some ways. Now, you may not necessarily hang out with them and drink a beer and shoot a game of snooker or anything like that. Things have changed because their energy has changed. It's not occupying a physical vessel in this world anymore, in this realm. So, maybe you can't do poker night anymore the same way you used to, but it doesn't mean that anything necessarily has changed as far as the commingling of your existences, your essences. You've just changed into something else. I think that's a great way to look at it.
And there's so much that I don't know that I'm looking forward to knowing.
That's why we love bridging the gap, because that's that gap we want to bridge.
Well, I did a house clearing. May we talk a little bit about that?
In the 5 minutes we've just been told we have left with this 5 minutes, 5. Watch Trading Spaces at the end of the big scene on the Wall Street. 5 minutes, 5.
Okay. And this was my cousin's house, and I made a special trip to Portland, and we were wonderful. Just, it was a great trip.
Oh, was this the one I went on?
Uh-huh.
Oh, it was lovely, yes. Hello to the people on the mezzanine level.
They were wonderful, and Barry and Donna were just perfect hosts and hostess. But we went in there in her house, and these are very well educated people, and they're not afraid of ghosts in any way, shape, or form. But my grandmother was there next to her dresser, that I didn't know it was her I didn't know her dresser was there, and she was sort of bossing my cousin around, telling her what needed to be done, and just like she would if she were right here. And it was interesting because I had no idea that was her dresser, nor why would it be there. There was a guy who smoked, walked through the house smoking. There was noises. There was
Wow.
urine smell, very strong urine smell.
Really? Is that
Oh.
common with...
Yes,
Is it?
yes. And there was absolutely no carpet, no reason for it to smell. And it was like the energies are all here. They're still here. We invited them to leave because they didn't need to be there. This is not a house that is big enough for all the energies that were in there. And they had the right to enjoy their home. And these energies had the choice of going on and seeing what's next. For one reason or another, they were stuck. I think my grandma in the chest was just being my grandma bossy butt. You know, that's who she was and what she was. It's like, what are you doing with my chest? It's in the corner here. It needs to do this. It was interesting to me, and it was strange that my grandma would come out, and it surprised me. It even surprised me. So they're here. There's energy. We're here. How do we get off on this subject?
Famous last words of Anna Nicole Smith, by the way, too. What are you doing with my chest? So, I couldn't let it go. I had to. It's for Shuffy. So I don't know, Brenda. That's what we do here on Bridge and Gap.
We just
sort
kind
of
ramble.
there's a lot of bridges, and we can bridge hop every so
Right,
often.
yes.
So, but we talked primarily about health, and I think about where that comes from. Talked about some larger things that encompass the world of health and health care and how we perceive it. And we'll talk more on this, of course, as episodes roll along here on the program. So, time enough for one more question, Jason, or are we? He's going to allow us this one. Did you see the look? It was just like, oh, fine, go ahead and do it. So, are we doing this next one? Are we going in order here, or are we
Why
jumping
don't you
around?
just decide what you want.
Oh, I get to decide.
Yes, he
I get to
does.
decide. Okay. Well, let's jump to the bottom one then, because I think
Okay.
this is a relatively simple one as well that we don't necessarily have to go off on a tangent about. So this is more of a good closing question than a good opening question. So,
Okay.
not that there would be such a thing. I just think this works. So, this also comes in complete anonymity, both namesake-wise and geographically, and says quite simply, "Is my husband sick or cheating?" Okay, and that's a fine question if you want to ask that for Brenda. We get a lot of those every week, though, so you might want to vary yours just a bit.
And we talked about this before we started the show, and this is the person I have spoken with on the
Another one you've spoken with,
And
okay.
a lot of these are people who
People who follow the program and have also are already consulted with you?
Okay. And maybe the question wasn't answered fully, or they say, oh, go ahead and ask this question later.
All right.
So it's part of it. In this particular case, I don't know what you call cheating. I don't see things the way most people see them. Is he having an affair?
Extramarital affair.
Well, of course he is. Of course he is.
Of course. Oh, okay.
It's time. But is he?
She already knows this, doesn't she?
Yes, she does. But is he actually having sex with this woman, or is it an emotional? And I usually have a really dirty word I say here, which I won't say this time. It has nothing to do with sex. It's a straight ego emotional affair. Is that hurting you at all? Only if you wanted to and only if you let it. We have probably been led to believe that we own the person that we stood up and did these little hokey vows with. And that we are never allowed to have a side thought or be a time when we're no longer attracted to this person. It's like you cannot cheat on another person. Whatever you do for yourself. Has nothing to do with the other person. That's not totally true, because I have seen, well, she had an affair, so I'm going to get even. I'm do whatever you want. It's so boring in the first place. This male has more life than he can deal with right now. And the only break he gets is in his head. And that's with this particular woman.
Sounds like more than one of them, too.
Would not spend, he would not ever want to be married to or even go to a movie with. But this person is an emotional relief for him right now. Is it right or is it wrong? Not up to me to judge whatsoever. Would I, at the age of 35, got a gun and drug him behind my truck? Probably. Will I do it now? No. You know, it's
an interesting difference between the sexes, I know here, Brenda. And
yes.
This gets into what we've talked about. We don't have time for it here, but it might be a good setup for a show down the road. What isn't, it seems like here. But we've talked about kind of a sexless or androgynous plane in the spirit realm where, you know, really energy isn't going to adapt itself to male or female. There is male and female energy, but in these bodies there's a very definite physical purpose, reproductively speaking, for being either male or female, and that's what it's pinned on. So it's interesting from a larger level to look at it like that, and then you break it down again, and there's an interesting compartment to how people gauge what you don't believe in as cheating, but what usually is called cheating, or extramarital affairs, or just an affair in general, and that is women are worried about a man, more often than not it seems like, at least we learn this, loving someone else. So the sex can be overlooked because if it's just physical, well, I understand I'm not what I used to be, she was really hot, I'll forgive you, as long as you don't love her. Now, from the male perspective, it's very reptilian, it's very just, you know, well, yes, I guess if you wanted to go ape, that's fine too, so. An iguana could pound its chest with its tail, Godzilla had a big long tail, so.
I really would like
same thing.
I would love to take this next show that we're going to do. We're going to talk about, with your permission, the different times in our lives. And I'm old now, so I get to do this. And if it's a little too outspoken, then maybe we'll cut it off. But that needs to be said.
She wasn't talking about the tape either. She was talking about something else.
We'll be cutting things off.
We'll be cutting things off on the next Bridging the Gap. Okay then. So
what do you think?
That sounds good. That sounds good. This is an interesting line of questioning. Again, thanks to the individual that wrote this question in. I hope everything works out to your liking. Again, try to take a different perspective on things. It can be very hard when you're bored in on your perspective, because it hurts. And I think that's the first place you're going to gravitate to, is something is hurting me, and that's where you're going to want to stay. But if you can change that a little bit.
It has nothing to do with your 20 pounds of extra weight or the lines you've discovered under your eyes, or the fact that it has nothing to do with you at all. Get over you. It has nothing to do with you other than how it makes you feel. And you have the power to control how you feel.
Yeah. It's an interesting issue because I think I'm with you in a lot of ways, Brenda, but in others I'm also perhaps maybe more with the mainstream, that when you do make a promise or a vow to yourself on behalf of someone else, you should take it seriously. Because if you start getting wonky with it, and especially if there are little ones involved,
The deal is, if you make a commitment to someone and you are with that person, then you're with that person. And I've been actually on both sides of this. Both sides are painful. And do I think it's okay to go do whatever you want to do whenever you feel like doing it? It's not okay, but it's not okay for the different reasons. It's not going to hurt anybody, that mission. What it does, it affects you. It affects how you feel about yourself. So getting control of the emotion and see what it is. We'll talk more. This is going to be fun.
yeah, I think this would be a big topic for sure, by the way. So, wonky, of course, it's a great answer for a lot of British game shows on radio or contests that they do. So they'll call you up in the middle of the night, you know, £1,000 sterling, a word that rhymes with donkey. Wonky? Yes, that's right. So, what else rhymes with donkey? Shuffy? Shuffy doesn't rhyme with donkey. He doesn't know? He just threw his hands up. He's done with this one. He wants to go. So, online, where you're watching this now, perhaps, which would be YouTube, is Bridging the Gap on TV. The websites are bridgingthegaptv.com and also bridgingthegapwithbrenda.com. You can find new episodes of our webcast there anytime. We usually have one new one up for you every week. Again, sorry about the lapse in the last couple of weeks. We've been busy putting together new material for ones that you're about to enjoy, including this one, which is online right now. Get your questions to Brenda Burgett through those same websites, and Brenda, we'll talk again soon. All right, for Brenda Burgett, I'm Ian Hansen. Until the next time on Bridging the Gap, enjoy your existence.